Sir Robert Bryson Hall II, aka Logic, born January 22, 1990. Today's feature is an artist that had great potential in the mid-2010s and was on his way to seeing that potential through by the end of the decade. From 2014 to 2019, Logic released 5 albums, 3 of which went platinum, 1 gold, and 2 were #1 albums in the country. A start to a rap career every rapper wishes could be their fate in an industry moving so fast at the time you can literally be here today and gone tomorrow. Logic was interesting because you could tell he was a true student of hip-hop, quick to pay his respects to the ones that came before him, and whether you liked him or not, the fact was there were no other rappers like him at the time. Something he could either use to propel him in the music industry or use as a crutch until fans grew tired of the same sob story of how you just don't quite fit in. Time revealed Logic's choice down a path that left him feeling the politics were too much to continue as he retired from rap in 2020. He'd make a return releasing another studio album 2 years later, but by then the potential had faded, and ever since his popularity and success has done the same. I wouldn't say I was one of Logic's biggest fans, but what I liked about his music most was that it came from a place of pureness and truth, like each word was from the heart and from his perspective. As a kid looking to be a part of something appearance-wise, he sticks out like a sore thumb. But skill-wise, you could tell Logic worked on his craft since being inspired to rap as a kid and wasn't going to accept he wasn't black enough to stand next to the best upcoming rappers in the game because talent-wise, he may have been head and shoulders above a lot of his peers. But as we know, talent isn't the only important piece to the puzzle. The entertainment industry waits for no one to get themselves together mentally. You either roll with the punches and adjust, or you're left behind for someone that's able to. Logic wasn't your traditional rapper, but his lane in the rap game was being paved through his work ethic, his consistency, and the recognition he received so early on in his career. Nominated for 2 Grammy Awards in 2018 for Song of the Year and Best Music Video for his song 1-800-273-8255 featuring Alessia Cara Khalid. He was signed to the iconic Def Jam, was a certified platinum-selling artist, and received some of the highest praise from the entertainment industry. Yet it all wasn't enough to keep Logic on course and confident he belonged. He'd leave Def Jam and embark on his independent journey, and by 2023, be a far cry from the spot he once held as he transitions to a space that potential may be lost forever. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to Playboy_Bruce on IG for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Logic is a rapper, singer, and songwriter from Rockville, Maryland that knew since 13 years old he wanted to not just do music and rap, but be the best at what he did. Inspired by the movie Kill Bill scored by RZA, Logic grew attached and intent on using hip-hop as a refuge from everything going on around him that he didn't want to be a part of. Things like family members hooked on drugs that other family members sometimes sold them. His father wasn't always a part of his upbringing, a victim of drug abuse himself, and his mother struggling with alcoholism, leaving a young Logic to figure it all out on his own. This led to being nonchalant about his schoolwork and eventually kicked out in the 10th grade after missing too many days and failing every subject except English. He first performed using the stage name Psychological, opening up for major artists before he released his first official mixtape that led to him being signed to the independent Visionary Music Group and his career taking off. By 2013, he was a part of the XXL freshman list for the best upcoming rappers that year. He'd released 3 straight platinum albums the next 3 years that grew his relevance more and more each release. Stunt number 1, internal struggles that turned many away. When I think of the career of Logic and his fall from relevance, the first thing comes to mind is him constantly attempting to prove himself as this or that, when in reality his core fan base could care less. If you didn't know, Logic is biracial, his father is black and his mother is white, and while that's normal in today's society, Logic struggled having to prove he was black enough to anyone that would listen, and on the other side felt discriminated against by his white friends that felt he wasn't really one of them either. But I think those were all a figment of his imagination when it came to how he was viewed in the rap game by his peers and fans. Honestly, no one cared that Logic was anything but a skillful rapper with potential to make a Grammy award-winning song. His core fan base were suburban white kids anyway, who never saw him as not white enough. In fact, that may have helped him having credibility in the rap game as having some black in him while participating in black art. But it always seemed he pushed too hard and too often to be accepted by the black community in interviews and especially in his music. His third album, Everybody, in its entirety is one long drawn-out pander to the black community, attempting to relate to the injustices black people face in everyday life and how he understands and wants to make things right. The title is Everybody, and the message seems to want to convey the idea that we're all equal, but then heavily focuses on just black people and all their issues in society. The album mostly came off as Logic attempting to gain acceptance as a half-black man in the black community and loses focus on just making meaningful songs that aren't so exhausting as the battle of race relations, a topic frankly no one looked to Logic to be the savior of, as he's clearly not charismatic enough for that job. His constant public battle and internal struggle being biracial became overwhelming and actually made him predictable and less interesting. Stunt number 2, becoming boring. As a result of stunt number 1, at some point Logic simply became a bit of a bore to listen to, as his subject matters never really changed over the course of his career, and his story never really had an interesting arc outside his biracial struggles, which to be honest, no one really wants to hear him complain about in the black community when he at least has the option to play on his privilege, looking like he could pass as a normal white guy. As a rapper, he didn't seem to evolve as well, still clashing with a lot of his production with his aggressive flow on most of his songs. It would have been great if Logic would have found a producer he connected with that could give him high-level production and consistency throughout his music, as that's an area fans lost interest as well. Sure, not every white rapper, which he's considered more than a black rapper, can find a Dr. Dre that can instantly make them a better and more interesting artist simply through production, but not finding that could mean the difference between keeping your interest or coming off as more of the same on every release. For an artist that releases as much as Logic did, which I also think hurt his career, his ideas became repetitive and lukewarm over time, and that could be because he releases them so close together and they all pretty much focus on the same one or two subject matters. When they don't, they pander to one area of shock talk or another, like his Grammy Award nominated song that touches on an important topic, but how often can that be recreated before listeners lose focus? His flow has potential, but you can't help but feel you've heard it too often as he reuses the same either highly aggressive, fast rapping flow or the slow and introspective one that made waves early but hasn't evolved much since. Stunt number 3, leaving Def Jam. Lastly, I don't think it was a good move career-wise for Logic to leave Def Jam and go independent, as being on a major label was working out quite well for him with 3 platinum albums, another gold, and all but one under the label top 10 albums in the country. I get it can feel strenuous as an artist being told when you can release your art and how it's presented to the world, and it even feels great finally being free contractually, but in my opinion, some artists need to be on major labels, and Logic is most certainly one of them. He was actually in a prime position on the label, as they allowed him to release a project every year, and for the most part the relationship worked out for both parties. He left after his album Vinyl Days in 2022 over to BMG as a distribution company for his future releases, like the 2023 College Park that peaked at 21 on the charts, his lowest of his career. His reasoning for leaving the major label scene has never quite been made clear, other than he just wanted more control over his releases, which seemed like a standard answer any rapper could give, especially seeing as Def Jam pretty much let him release as he pleased while with them. Without the major label machine behind him, I don't think Logic will ever get back to the position he once was in rap. At this point, I don't think it matters because he has had his share of success and has other ventures and focuses now outside just rap, so I'm sure he'll be just fine. Musically though, it took away a reach he had the potential to dominate. All in all, I think Logic's rap career did have the potential to be legendary, and I kinda wished he embraced his white side and the white rapper comments and took that lane and ran with it, seeing as there hasn't been one since Eminem to do so. Sure, you have Jack Harlow now and he's seeing some success, but Logic had much more potential than Harlow and certainly a better start in music and had a perfect time to capitalize. But for these reasons, his growth was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.